We're live right now, so Omar, you can go ahead and begin the introductions. Can you hear us?
Yes, yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the cryptocurrency panel session as part of SOT. Really looking forward to doing this. I'm Omar Javaid. I'm the moderator for this panel, and we have some really great panelists who will introduce themselves shortly. I'll start with Jens Zimmermann. Jens, could you please just do a brief introduction before we actually get to the panel itself?
Sure. Thank you, Omar. Yeah, hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. My name is Jens Zimmermann. My background is in private equity and venture capital with a special passion for the education sector. And in this capacity, it's been since 2007 that my engagement with the Beacon House Group started, for whom I have a lot of respect, and had the privilege to witness some amazing growth geographically into Southeast Asia and the Middle East. So very proud and happy to be part of this conference organized by Beacon House.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Let me then next introduce Moneeza.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Moneeza Butt. I'm a partner in KPMG Pakistan for the past 12 years. I'm essentially an audit partner. I have a portfolio of local as well as multinational clients, and it's a pleasure to be here today and speak about cryptocurrencies, which is the hot topic, I would say.
Thank you, Moneeza. And last but certainly not least, Davinci.
Hi, my name is Davinci Jeremie. I have a YouTube channel with 230,000 subscribers. It's called Davinci J15. I also have a software company called Davinci Codes. And we sell the software called Pandora's Wallet. Also, I have free videos on how to trade altcoins properly using the little lady strategy, which are those videos on how to do so are available free at www.davincicodes.net/videos. I'm glad to be here and look forward to all the questions and answering, because I love providing free information to the masses about how to avoid this current financial system, which transfers wealth from the poor and the middle class to the rich. And that's why I started doing videos way back in 2008, because I saw an unfair system and I wanted to let people know that it existed and how to avoid it.
Thank you, Davinci. And Jens, if you wouldn't mind maybe muting, or somebody has a lot of background noise right now. Thank you so much. So why don't we begin the panel? And Jeremie, since you kicked things off, my first question was, when did you get into the crypto space? So when did you get into it, and then what really sparked your interest? You kind of alluded to that in your opening comments, but I'd love to learn more because you have such an interesting background and such an interesting story.
Well, it started back in 2007 when I noticed that, when I heard from Ron Paul, who said, who was a senator, not a senator, but a congressman, who said that he was running for president, and at the time he said that our monetary system is unfair, it transfers wealth from the poor and the middle class to the rich. And when everybody said, they all agreed, and then they moved on with the debate, like, okay, that's not a big deal, let's move on. I realized something was not right. And so I decided to research what this man was talking about. And when I did, it was like falling through the rabbit hole. It was like unbelievable how our whole financial system is a complete fraud against every single human being on this planet. Oh my God. And and I'm not a person I'm a software developer. Not a person who gets in front of an audience and so forth and starts talking. that much at all. Actually, I hate it. I hated it with passion. You know how some people, hate, they dislike public speaking as much. They'd rather die than do public speaking. I was
But
one of those.
you don't have a fear of it. It doesn't seem like you have a fear of it, Davinci. It just
Not anymore.
no.
Not anymore.
Okay.
Not anymore. But what got me to do YouTube videos is because I felt that none of my friends understood what I was trying to tell them. None of the people believed what I was saying. And I thought, well, if I could just save one person and do YouTube videos and just save one person, that would be enough. So that's what I did. And then one of my YouTube subscribers told me, hey, Davinci, what do you think about Bitcoin? And I thought, scam. There's no way you could solve the double spend problem because I'm a software developer. I know that that's been a dilemma for developers for more than 30 years, right?
More than a couple of decades, yeah. So
since we've got into computers. So it's you couldn't know for sure that somebody sent you a digital asset and they didn't have the capacity to send it again. That's the problem. And so I said, okay, I'm going to read the source code, right? I said to my follower, right, hey, you know what? Because I took care of every one of my followers. I didn't want anybody to get hurt. And I said, hey, listen, I'm going to read the source code. I'm going to read the white paper and show you how this is a scam, right? Because I'm sure that it is. When I did, I was quite shocked, and I did a video shortly where it said, hey, you know what? Every once in a while, something comes along that makes poor people rich because they bought it really early. This is one of them. And well, that YouTube video actually got taken down because it didn't get a lot of likes. People did not like me talking about Bitcoin when I was talking about gold and silver. So that's how I got into Bitcoin in 2011.
Well,
at $1.
That's an awesome story. And you were right, actually, the first time Ron Paul, although he's retired now, Ron Paul was a senator, a longstanding senator. And
Congressman,
also,
actually.
Yeah, and that, well, I think congressman refers to the overall, there's a senator, and then there's a congressperson.
His son's a senator.
General term. Anyways, he's retired now. So, but yeah, he's a big proponent of Austrian economics, and then he also, I think he's also been a big proponent of gold for a very, very long time as well. So, fascinating story. Thank you for sharing that. Moneeza, tell us a little bit more about your interest. When did you get into cryptocurrency, and what sparked your interest in it?
Okay, so as I introduced myself, I am an accountant and an auditor on that. So, we audit global accounts and multinationals and all. So to quote something very recent, when companies like Tesla, they start investing in the Bitcoin, so that, we need to be on top of their case and see how it's going to be accounted for in their balance sheet, and, how the transaction, what the costs are, what the market values are, what drives all these factors, and how to present it, for the shareholders when they see the annual reports and all. So my interest is basically, triggered because of the investment decisions, or, these decisions that these global companies take. And then, I have to be I have to ensure basically that the guidelines according to which they have to be accounted for and disclosed in these financial statements, they are, appropriate. So this is how I am, relevant. I would say that, this is how my relevance comes in. Got it.
So, but Moneeza, when did you get involved? When did you get interested in cryptocurrencies?
Well, so in 2009, I believe this is when the whole the cryptocurrency and the Bitcoin phenomenon, transpired, I would say. And since then, I have just been following it. But now, since I believe, these corporations have, started to, invest, and there's been a movement, about cryptocurrency. So this is where, I think, because since it's an unregulated sort of a market, so then that is when, the regulators and the accountants and the auditors, they all start taking note of it. So it's been quite a few years now that, we're on top of it on how to account for such assets, how to, how their market value is going to be, derived. So it's been quite a few years, I would say.
Got it. Jens, please tell us when did you get involved in cryptocurrency, and what sparked your interest? How did you get in there? So we've heard, Davinci give us a great intro to, how he saw Congressman Ron Paul, He actually looked into the code, read Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper, which I did as well. It's actually a fantastic piece of work. It's technical, but I encourage people to read it. Tell us about your story, Jens. You're on mute, by the way.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, first of all, I loved to learn from Davinci how he got involved and what sparked his interest to basically, participate in a more just system. And I agree with a lot of things that he said. I'm by no means an expert in cryptocurrencies. I did buy some crypto a few years ago. I followed a few tokens and coins and saw them go really high. But it's more as an investor. I mean, I've invested in private companies and in technology, in stocks for over 25 years now. And it's just, interesting as a new, or a potentially new asset class. And then, having observed and lived in and worked in and had companies in, Western as well as developing economies, it's just intellectually very interesting to see if something like crypto can actually make it beyond the regulatory and the political hurdles. And the audience is split around the world, so I think we're going to have a nice discussion here. And yeah, on a high level, I think there's still a lot of question marks. But I mean, there's a lot of good that already came out of it. So it's going to be an interesting journey. None of us is a fortune teller, and there are as many supporters as there are critics. So I think it's definitely a very interesting topic and a great new development. If it will prevail or not, we will try to debate that here, but we will also not know at the end of the session.
Well, some of the questions I shared with you in advance, so we'll get to those. One of those, I'm going to ask you to get in the seat of a prognosticator and predict the future. But we'll hold off on that. So Jens, you've been involved in this for a while. How do you? So this is something that's now becoming. I've been involved in this for quite some time, and as well. I think Jeremie has beat me to the punch. Probably beat everybody on this panel. Was in there very, very early. Although I read the Satoshi Nakamoto paper shortly after it came out, I just didn't pay much attention to the actual sort of crypto market until probably thinking like 2008, 2009 type of time frame. So now that it's become much more, let's say, a household word, right? How would you explain this market, or how would you explain this phenomenon to your grandmother? How do you explain this to somebody who doesn't know anything about it? Please go ahead.
So, frankly, Omar, if my grandmother was alive today, she'd be like 110 years old. So I think it's a relief for me that I don't need to explain this to her, because you've seen how the technology has advanced and changed. But if she were alive today, maybe I would try to explain it in a simplistic manner by drawing a parallel regarding how money moves, digitally through banks when you use your debit card, because there's no physical, basically, handling of cash in that sense. So in that sense, I would try to explain to her that how the ledger is now maintained on the internet without any banks being involved. Something as simplistic as that. So this is my view on it.
Got it. Davinci, I think I'm giving you a layup here since I saw one of your YouTube videos. How would you explain this to the novice? I like to put it as, how do you explain this to your grandmother? Right, but it could just be your parents as well.
Yeah. Well, I just start off by saying exactly what Moneeza said. Basically, hey, you know how a bank works, right? You transfer your money to somebody else through digitally, right? And you don't have to like give them actual physical cash, right? But the bank makes sure that who has what at any point in time. Bitcoin, right? There is no central authority or person deciding who has what. So it is written in a ledger that's not going to cheat anybody. No one's going to be cheated by this. No one at the bank. No, there is no one person that goes, no. I'm going to accidentally make a mistake, or there's no one person to make a mistake and put too much money in somebody's account or too little. It's all automatic. It's all easy. And on top of that, the key thing is that there's no authority telling you, no, you can't transfer the money there. That's the advantage. There is no, like, for example, if you want it, I know grandma doesn't have $1 million to move, but if you try to move $1 million from Dubai to Pakistan, good luck. Good luck, right? Right? Do that in Bitcoin.
Hey, the other way around is pretty tough too, by the way.
Yeah. No, you're right. Look, the one part of it is it's you can explain it through digital banking, that you're sending. This was, let's say, one of the early innovations of PayPal, right? In the early days of the internet, where you could actually email people money. Now, Bitcoin, you can send money very, very easily. I think the really interesting, and we'll get into this, is the notion of the currency itself, right? Because the financial system that we live in, the world financial system that we all live in today, is all about governments issuing their own currencies, sovereign currencies. And there's an underlying aspect of this, which is, and Davinci, you touched on this, which is centralization versus decentralization. But before we get into that interesting aspect, Jens, how would you explain this to your grandmother, or I just use that as a placeholder for somebody, the novice?
Yeah. Firstly, it would be great if my grandmother were around to explain it to her. I think I would go back a little bit in history and refer to Bretton Woods, which was had to do with the gold standard, where gold was backing up currencies issued by central banks, which are tied to governments. So actually, till that point, when we had the gold standard, the currencies were asset backed with gold, and then that was abolished. So then it became basically not assets which back the currency, but trust and the power of governments and central banks behind it. And then I would say, what's going on with crypto or with Bitcoin is that there are some technological advantages, and it's a fairer, more democratic system than government issued currencies. However, it relies on trust, and it's all online, or it's all digital, and there's no asset backing it. So some economists would probably argue that it's not even a currency to start with, but that's, I think, how I would attempt to explain it to her.
Got it. So, but Jens, do you think crypto is the future, or is it a fad? Is it something that is here with us long term?
Well, I think as we see with many great technological advances of the past and the present, where the trend goes first is, well, I don't see myself anymore. Do we have okay. Yeah, where the trend goes first is not necessarily where it ends up for the greater good of the economy or society or any specific population. And I think we're early in the process. I think even the experts keep arguing that Bitcoin actually isn't such a great cryptocurrency, if you want to call it that. But it's also the fact that while there are 3,500 or so cryptocurrencies out there, 2/3 or so of the market cap is based in Bitcoin, which technologically is probably not the most developed, and is the begin all, but not maybe the end all. So I would say we've already seen some great things come out of it. I would say specifically the nexus to blockchain technology, which has undebatable advantages, and which, in my view, will stay if cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, will continue their rise in value and popularity. I think remains to be seen. I do believe that there's some strong opposition in politicians, in governments, in central banks, who essentially, as we see in many other cases, are very reluctant to lose power or market share when threatened. So I think this is a clear threat to the current power regime. And while I agree with Davinci that the current system is by no means a good one, but as we see throughout history, because something is not optimal or fair or not good, doesn't mean it's going to go away and make way for something that serves humanity better and does more good, for planet Earth. Unfortunately, but so yeah, I think the jury is out. I think, in my view, some facets that we've already seen, particularly blockchain, will definitely stay. If Bitcoin or any of the other cryptocurrencies make it bigger than today, maybe yes. Maybe it'll grow more and then it'll implode. It's very difficult to say, but I think what's a little worrisome is that we have a lot of retail investors in cryptocurrencies now, and I think by and large don't really understand what they are investing in and what the risks are involved. So yeah, the fact that it's reached the mass level is also a bit alarming if you compare it to some trends of the past. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Great. Moneeza, how about yourself? Do you think crypto is the future? Is it a fad? I'm going to end with you on that one there.
Yeah. Okay. So you see, it has been here for more than a decade, and I don't consider it to be a fad. I guess it is going to be around for the foreseeable future for sure. But I think there are certain matters that need to be taken into account before, we can say that it's a sustainable phenomenon. For example, cybersecurity issues. So, your one's digital fortune, you can lose it by just if the computer crashes or if there's a hacker. And I believe the more popular they become, the more regulation they will attract, and there'll be more scrutiny. So maybe this would just erode the financial premise on which they came into existence. And then another matter I think that needs to be taken into account is that it attracts more technologically savvy people. So you see, it has to have a wider acceptance for it to be sustainable in the future. And then to become part of the mainstream financial system, it has to meet a divergent criteria. For example, it needs to be very complex for computer hackers, but at the same time, it has to be very easy for the consumers, to use it. And it's to preserve user anonymity and not to be a conduit for tax evasion and money laundering. So these are matters that need to be taken into account. But I feel surely it is not a fad, I would say, but it is something to remain in the future. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, Moneeza, the way I look at it, I have been in the technology industry for a number of decades. And you may remember there was a famous McKinsey study that that people asked them what the size of the computer market was, and they said something like the worldwide market for computers is 7. Okay, now we know that it's a lot larger than that, because the smartphone market, smartphones, those are just mobile computers, but now computers have become mainstream. They became easier to use. So you're right. In order for this to work, it has to be as easy to use and as useful and as regular currencies. And we'll get into that, because I think that I actually think that it's true today, but it's I think it's accessible to more technologically savvy people. But I think that's changing. Davinci, what do you think? Is this the future? Is this the big future? Or is this a fad?
Well, I would like to point out that a lot of people say that the governments and everything resist this stuff, and so that's why it's possibly a fad. But then I'd like to point out, hey, you know what? I know hindsight's 2020, but it's an example, right? The church was a keeper of knowledge for a long while. They never wanted anybody else to keep that knowledge, and yet they created the Gutenberg press. Somebody created the Gutenberg press. Oh, yeah, and so yet today we don't have any books. Oh wait, we do. so yeah, that's an example of where you can't uninvent something that has never been thought of before, never existed in humankind, and then say no, that's just gonna go away. Bitcoin is an invention that was never thought possible, just like electricity was, just like the automobile was, and just like the airplane. So to say that all those things are a fad, yes, people did say they were a fad in the past, right? But they were completely wrong, and it was obvious that they were completely wrong, right? So it's not going away. Now, as for all the compliance and all that money laundering crap and tax evasion crap, that's all nonsense, because the only reason why you have income taxes in the first place is because of our monetary system. Our monetary system requires the money to be circled around through debt. So your government basically borrows the money from the central bank, which gets it for free, and then has to pay interest on that debt. So the only way they can get interest on that debt is to enslave the population, to pay them the interest to the central bank, which got the money for free. So enough with that nonsense, please. Okay? And then when anybody talks about money laundering, please Google how many times HSBC has been caught for money laundering. Money laundering is just a statement so that you can't have a bank. You cannot money launder. Everybody else can. Everybody who's got a license can, but you can't. Okay? So stop the nonsense.
Well, we know where you stand on that one pretty clearly. So let's, since this is an area you started out talking about, not just Bitcoin, but some altcoins. Davinci, what are some of the innovations or new trends in crypto? This is one of the things about the market that really excites me. It's not just the altcoins, but there's some really, really interesting, new developments, new innovations. And even though this is such a young space, that's one of the things that personally excites me a lot about it. What are some of the new innovations, new things like that are coming down the pike that really excite you?
You're talking to me. So new innovations are coming down the pipe. Well, obviously, right, when it comes to, if you're talking about Bitcoin, right, there's, the Taproot and the Schnorr signatures and what those things are. I know those are technical terms that most people don't know what they are, but basically it helps to anonymize transactions on the Bitcoin network, because you hear about the current regime saying, whenever you hear something on the news, right, that's true. That is, they tell you the truth, but they always sprinkle a little bit of BS right into it, right? So that it makes it sound like they're giving you ice cream, but there's some BS in there, so you don't want to really taste any of that. But anyways, they tell us that Bitcoin has has green coins and bad green coins and pollution coins that are produced with coal and so forth. That's the new scare tactic, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Because they want to because Bitcoin is fungible, right? Meaning that all the Bitcoins are the same, right? You don't really separate between the two, but any more than you do with a dollar or US dollar, which has $100 bill, which has a lot of $100 have cocaine traces on them. So should we, like, you know what, make sure that you do not spend a $100 bill with cocaine traces on it? I mean, come on, let's get real here. a lot of money would be burnt.
Yeah.
Right? So also we have this rule that's on the US dollar that, hey, even if you had this written down, the serial numbers of all the dollars that you had on you, right, and somebody stole it and then was caught, and somewhere else somebody spent it, and you said, hey, wait, that's my dollar, give it back to me. No, they can't do that, because then it reduces the value of the dollar, right? Because it's not fungible. They're trying to do that with Bitcoins, right? By saying that those Bitcoins are bad, but those ones are good. That's nonsense. And so the what's it called? The Taproot and Schnorr signatures will make sure that they can't really do that. And that's the key piece of technology that I like. And then if you're talking about Ethereum, that's a whole other thing. But I think we'll stick to Bitcoin.
So Davinci, I take it, are you a Bitcoin maximalist, or are you into a bunch of altcoins as well?
I own 340 different altcoins, so I'm not.
Oh, okay, so you're all over it. No. Jens, we haven't heard from you in a while. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. What are some of the innovations and new trends that you're really excited about in crypto, or just even some, because obviously there's a technology underpinning that, and people are doing interesting things with that as well. What are some of the things that are exciting to you as an investor and an entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, I'm also big on social impact, and just like Davinci, I would like, or probably all of us, I would like to see the world become a better place. And I don't really have too much hope in our global politicians, as we see COVID is not really managed in a way that makes the world a better place here. But so I think one of the advantages, and I already mentioned the blockchain technology, which has many different applications. I think many countries, many emerging countries have big issues with convertibility and vastly depreciating domestic currencies, which victimizes most of the individuals in those countries. And I think by having an alternative route to money transfers and monetary storage, essentially, it makes it a fairer playing field, and that's definitely a good thing. Now, as I said before, if the current cryptocurrencies will prevail or not, I'm not going to be I'm not going to make a prognosis on that. But and as I also alluded to earlier, once since the trend has been started and it's been around for 10 years or so, many good follow-on developments will come forward, and we'll hear about them as time progresses. So all in all, I think it's great that this evolution started. Some of it is certainly gonna stick around, and but the end game is probably something that none of us actually can describe today. But it's a dynamic, ongoing trend, which is good, which is positive, which democratizes system, which is great, and I think especially for emerging markets, there are great advantages to come out of this.
Well, there are great advantages today. If you see just in foreign remittances, that is a big business, and it is. You see banks charge exorbitant fees. You have countries like Pakistan, actually all over the Indian subcontinent, where you have workers, that they work in the UAE and they send money home. It's an expensive process. So this not only the technology but cryptocurrencies can really improve that. Moneeza, what do you think? What are some of the trends or new innovations that you're really excited about in the crypto area?
So Omar, I believe that institutions who have allocated capital to this area. So this is a very big development in itself. We have seen Tesla and PayPal taking the lead in this. So this, you cannot ignore this development. I think this is a big major breakthrough. Along with that, I believe the risk assessment models of corporations will become more robust. If they did not pay attention to this area, they will now be focusing on it. And I believe with the cost of transactions might also change. It may not remain as low as they're supposed to be right now, because as they say, with Bitcoin, the transaction costs are low. So maybe with the surge in this phenomenon, so maybe then we will see an increase in these costs. And apart from that, I also believe that tax regulations might come into play, because the more this currency is going to be used, the more it will attract tax evasion and KYC procedures. So this is what I believe, from my aspect as an accountant.
Great, thank you. So Davinci, let's I'm sure you've got probably an hour's worth of material in this one at least. So let's what are some of the new innovations? So I know we covered some of that, but I wanted to follow up on because we heard about some of the tax evasion part of it. Now this is a topic I actually find interesting. I wanted to get your perspective on this, Davinci, because look, tax evasion happens today with the existing financial system, just like money laundering. I think the real issue with that governments are dealing with, I mean, they're calling it tax evasion, for example, but the underlying issue is that it's centralization versus decentralization. This is the first time that we're seeing that. I think this is true. There's isolated incidents, but this is the first time really in human history that that governments, that it's a non-sovereign entity that is able to issue legal tender, that is able to issue currency, right? And when you look at, so that's Bitcoin, but then you have all these altcoins as well, and some of them have different community-based approaches. It's really fascinating. Tell me a bit. Let's dive in a bit on that, Davinci, as a specific innovation. I know you talked about some of these two technology trends, but what are you seeing? Because this is what some of the things I'm seeing with the latest crop of altcoins is that, like Monero, for example, they emphasize security quite a lot.
Okay, so so the question, you said a lot there, so I'm not trying to figure out.
My question is on some of these. Let's just taking a dive, since this is an area that you're quite deep in. You talked about some of those. You talked about two areas in technological innovation. What are some of the trends that you're seeing in let's say altcoins? One of the things that I've been seeing is, okay, there's some that are more quote unquote green. There's others that are emphasizing more privacy. What are some of these other trends that you're excited about?
Well, the trends are smart contract trends, of course, like Ethereum, Binance Chain, ADA, Cardano, right? This is a good trend because you know what? It provides high finance, complex finance like insurance and derivatives to the poor, like people who do not have any identification. They can have access to that kind of level of finance. This is a very big piece of innovation that's going to uplift a lot of the poor. The poor will still be with us, as Jesus have said. But the thing is, they'll be poor, but they'll not realize how they live better than the kings of today, right? In the future, that's what Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to do to them. They will be still poor, but they live better than the top 1% of today. Right, so that's something to look forward to. But they'll still grumble and crime and stuff like that. Because like, you think about it, right? The poorest person in America, right, has running hot water, toilets, and a television, and a box to get any kind of information that they want, right? And now go back 100 years, right? And a king didn't have any of that. Right? If they had, King had that, but it was like, he didn't have it as well as we did. So that's the key thing, right? That people don't understand, right? See, the poorest person today is living better than a king 100 years ago. So and I see that happening with the innovations of finance, right? It's going to move a lot of people into a positive way. And the best thing is that all this stuff about tax evasion. You know what tax evasion is? It's just basically, oh, you don't want to pay your local thug for if you don't pay, right, for what's it called, the extortion, right? Your local thug wants to extort you for money, right, that he got for free, that he's got to pay interest on. Okay, you think about how horrible that is, right? It is it's unimaginably it's abhorrent, right? To get free money, then collect taxes to pay the person who printed you the free money. It is ridiculous. And once history looks back at humanity today, they will laugh. They will laugh at all of us.
Hopefully not this panel. They learned it here first. So Jens, you kind of touched on this thread. Crypto mining has been criticized recently for the exorbitant energy demands that are required. For example, Iran, which has had rolling blackouts, has recently shut down, or has tried to, at least, shut down mining due to recently. Is that a valid criticism? And what can be done about it, or what do you think is being done about it?
Well, I'm certainly not an expert on this, but I would differentiate by the source of the energy. I mean, if you produce a clean energy and lots of it, so that there's no supply issue, then that seems to mitigate the problem you pose in front of us. If the energy needed to do the mining is generated by diesel generators and coal-powered energy sources, then that's a big issue then for the environment. So I think this kind of analysis would need to happen. And I mean, there are a lot of people propagating that energy will be free and ubiquitous and clean going forward. So if that were the case, then this question doesn't pose itself. But as I said, if it's produced in a way which causes negative external effects, then the criticism is valid.
Yeah, look, I remember the early days of the internet, which we call the web, right? The internet actually preceded that, and then the mobile revolution. I kind of put a lot of this, the energy demands. I put that up there as these are all. It's a real. I mean, it's true that it does require energy, but so does everything else. I mean, does the web? How much energy does the movie or television industry consumes? We never hear that. All of a sudden, we're hearing about it with respect to Bitcoin and crypto. So, Moneeza, what do you think about that as well? Because I think the Pakistani government has also been making statements along these lines as well.
Yeah, so Omar, you mentioned about Iran. So I just like to say over here that in Iran, I believe the Bitcoin became a cottage industry because as the country sought reprieve from US sanctions, they ventured that into more to sustain themselves basically. So but yes, I think it does require exorbitant levels of energy. I think I read somewhere that there was some Cambridge study where they said that the amount of energy which is required in writing the ledger for Bitcoin is approximately the entire energy of UAE. So we cannot deny the fact that it does require a greater level of energy. But for crypto mining, I understand that one requires a computer server, which is like a capital expenditure, and then energy acts like an operating expense. So it is best to mine in locations which are cheaper providers of electricity. That would, I think, make it more sustainable. Or to mine bitcoins, with solar or wind energy, which would also reduce the carbon footprint. So this is my view on it.
Got it. Got it. So Moneeza, do you think just switching gears, you're in an interesting position. You're in the private sector, but you deal a lot, I'm sure, with public sector clients as well. How do you see, does crypto itself, does it pose a threat? Do you think it poses a threat to the current central banking fiat system? Or is this something that you think governments can actually embrace or leverage?
Okay, so you see, crypto is surely a threat to the central banks, I would say. Because you've seen how economies are controlled by the currencies that they float, and they decide the demand and supply of the currency side. So if crypto replaces that, so they would lose power basically, which we've just been discussing earlier on also. What I feel is, like, if crypto comes into place, there would be some adequate regulation required, for from central banks to accept it basically. Right now, I believe the acceptance is not there. They are just trying to figure out how to manage the decentralization part. So this is what I feel regarding central bank's role in it.
Got it. What about you? What about you, Jens? Do you feel like that crypto is a major threat to this central bank fiat system, basically the post Bretton Woods world that we live in? And do you see it? Is crypto therefore more of a threat to major currencies like the U.S. dollar, or to non-U.S. dollar or non-euro, non-major, like in terms of float the currencies, like let's say the rupee or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, as I said right at the outset, it's very obvious that it eats into the market share and the power base of central banks and associated governments. The U.S. dollar being the strongest currency globally, and a lot of effort has happened, which is visible and behind the scenes to continuously strengthen or protect the position of the U.S. dollar. I know that many people believe that a lot of the wars that have been fought over oil were essentially over the protecting the dominance of the U.S. dollar, and probably many things that most people aren't aware of. But so with the U.S. dollar being the strongest currency out there, and a lot of energy has gone into protecting that position. Of course, if there's an alternative, which is digital, uncontrollable by any government, then of course the market leader stands to lose a lot. And this is precisely possibly the largest risk to the survival or the further future of cryptocurrencies, that the politicians and the central bankers who regulate the markets are against it, because they stand to lose a lot. That's what I believe.
Got it. Thank you, Davinci. What do you think about this? Do you think this is a real threat? Is crypto ultimately a threat to the current fiat system, or do you think central banks, these countries rather, is this something that they can embrace and extend? And then, so that's question one. And then question two is, how do you think this affects the U.S. dollar, or is it more about other currencies potentially?
Well, it is a major threat to the central banking system, because you have a system where you have something that's honest and fair. And for example, our whole financial system is based on regulation. It exists on regulation, meaning setting up a set of rules so that the banks don't go running amok. And you're like, well, that's good, right? Okay, but Bitcoin is also is a set of rules, right? It's just programmed in. But once it's programmed in, you can't change it, right? And so it has to be something that's absolutely fair. And the same with, like, for example, you can't change the nature of silver. It's just a coin and that's it. You're not going to change its nature, no matter how much you point a gun at it. And the same with Bitcoin. Now, if you change the nature of our financial system, you can change it, right? It just, they just have to strike a pen, write something, and then all of a sudden it changes. You can't do that with Bitcoin. You can't do that with silver. But you can do that with our financial system, right? And once you do, let's just say you open it up with zero regulations, right, which is possible, that means that the central bank or any bank can just print as much money as they want and whenever they want, and obviously it would destroy the financial system immediately. So that's why we have those regulations, right? Yeah. So really, there should be no regulations, because then it destroys that financial system. And then we only exist with systems that do work and not systems that don't, right? People will only gravitate to systems that do. And this is why central banks, which is a system that does not work, that requires a lot of force in order for it to work, right, is going to die. Now, what does that mean to the dollar? Well, I mean, again, you can't know for exactly sure what's going to happen to the US dollar and local currencies. It could probably still exist, because here's the thing: human nature is very stubborn. You could point out to people that cutting somebody on their wrist, right, that to open up when they have a fever, to open them up and bleed them out, right, is not a good idea in the past. But then you were considered a heretic, right? Why would you think that that's not the case? Today, it's the same, right? Why would you think that we should not have central banking and taxes? We should need all that stuff, or else the whole system will all die. Oh my God, what are we going to do, right? But there is a better way. It's just, we are so used to our current system, and we can't imagine it any other way. And so that's just the way it is, and it's not going to die overnight. And people will literally fight to save it, especially corporations, because corporations benefit from our current financial system the most, because they get to raise prices faster than they raise the largest cost of any corporation is the labor cost. And so they get to raise prices faster than their labor cost goes up. So it makes sense for a corporation to support a current financial system, along with the governments, of course, as well. So it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a long fight.
Those are excellent points. Look, we have a few. It's funny how time flies. We have a few minutes left in this panel, and I think it's a great point. Let's keep your momentum going, Davinci, because what I'd like to end with all of the panelists is your predictions for the future. So I think, Davinci, one of the things you're famous for is you made a very, very early call with Bitcoin. Give us your view. Let's call it the 3 to 5 year view. Give us your predictions for the next 3 to 5 years. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, in the next 3 to 5 years, right, I think people are going to realize the central banks are in a box. They cannot raise interest rates anywhere, or the whole system collapses. Also, derivatives is a perfect system. Warren Buffett called it financial weapons of mass destruction. He is absolutely correct. Basically, you cannot destroy any one major bank, or else it collapses everything. The whole system collapses at once. So it's all intertwined perfectly, so that if they let anything fall, anything collapse, right, it all collapses. So they either print to keep it all going, or they collapse it immediately. That's their only choices, right? Keep it running for a little bit longer by printing, or let it all collapse immediately right now. And since they've already said that's not an option back in 2008, when they bailed everybody out, because I thought, when I saw 2008 coming from a mile away, I thought, you know what, the governments are not that dumb. They're not going to be printing money. They're going to let banks fail. No, they did not. So so now that I see that's the case, they're going to keep it going. They're not going to let anybody fail. They're going to push the envelope the system as far as possibly can, and it's only up to the individuals to realize, hey, wait a minute, this is not going to work. I think corporations are slowly realizing, yeah, we're at the end of the cycle here. We don't want it to end, but we need to do something so that we can like survive on the other side. So it's going to be interesting what they do. I think they're going to go into Bitcoin, but that's all up to them, and we have to wait and see. So 5 years from now, I think corporations are going to be all loaded up with Bitcoin, because I don't see them. I don't think they have any other choice with the current inflation rate that's going on around them. So
great. That's a very bold prediction. Thank you for that. Moneeza, what do you think? Give us your predictions for the next 3 years, next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, so Omar, I am no fortune teller here.
Remember, it's on video; it'll be preserved forever. So.
Yeah. So I would say, contrary to that, I'm in the shackles of conservatism, given that I'm an accountant as well as an auditor. So I would say that since it has been here for like more than a decade, so I believe it is here to stay, and it is something similar to a stock market. So it would be, the demand and supply would determine its economics. So that's what I believe. So I can't predict the prices, or where
No, it's much more, Moneeza. It's much more open ended.
And the demand and supply, I believe, would really determine where it goes.
My question was much more open ended. I wasn't really. I mean, you could say like, oh, I think Bitcoin will get to $1 million a Bitcoin. That would be a prediction. But I wasn't looking. I wasn't really looking for that per se. It's more, it was more along the lines of what you had eventually going. So Jens, let's wrap it up with you. And what do you give us your thoughts for the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I completely agree with Davinci that the current systems are in a huge mess, and it's hard to see a way out of it. I mean, that quantitative easing and printing of trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in other currencies is just without interest rates going up. It just defies everything we all learned in macroeconomics when we did. So the threat is that this will catch up, because there's no sustainable future where you can just print trillions of dollars every year and get away with it. So it's going to catch up with economies and systems at some point. So you asked about the next 3 to 5 years. I would certainly expect inflation and interest rates to rise over time, and this may be the rise might be higher in some geographies or economies than in others. But that will pose some serious issues exacerbated by the fallout of the COVID damages that we've seen globally, and a lot of it is covered up in the Western countries right now because by subsidies. But that's also not just like you can't continuously print your way out of a crisis. You also can't just cover everything up with subsidies. So it's going to catch up at some point. As far as crypto is concerned, and Bitcoin, I think we're going to looking forward. We'll see a lot of volatility. I think a lot of money will be made, just as it has been in the past. But we'll also, it's not going to be a one-way road where Bitcoin and others will just, rise by 25% every year or something like that. Or, I've read so many comments that, for sure, Bitcoin is going to be at $100,000 latest by the end of the year. When you read such statements, you better run and do the opposite, I think. So, as I said earlier, I think a lot of good things have already come out of the crypto evolution, and we'll continue to see more great things coming? Will it be replacing the power base that we have today in governments and central banks? I don't think so, but it's going to be an exciting time to see what good things come out of it.
Thanks, Jens. All right, I think we are right at time, so I wanted to thank everybody. I really enjoyed this panel discussion. Thank you, Jens. Thank you, Moneeza, Davinci. All of you had great answers to these questions, and hopefully the people streaming in learned a lot from this session. I think we covered a lot of really great ground and made some really great observations as well. Thank you, everyone. Be well.
Thank you, Omar.
Thank you.